Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Bethlehem 10-inch series. An underappreciated label. Their stuff's out there. I completed the Bethlehem 10-inch series recently and I wanted to celebrate by making this little series for you guys. Here's a great example of the Bethlehem art department. A close-up of an owl with the yellow eyes with Eddie shoe inside the eye. It's beautiful. It's not like the common 10-inch of this era whatsoever in terms of its art department. Eddie Shoe was quite the character. He played tenor, alto, clarinet, trumpet, harmonica, accordion. He could really do it all, but he was kind of really known for being an alto player and a clarinet player. This record has Bobby Scott on piano. Vinnie Burke is on the bass. Roy Haynes, as a young man, is the drummer on this session. It cooks. And again, a white player is completely capable of playing this music. As capable as I am of preparing a Japanese meal. But my experience, my surroundings are going to impact that meal. I can only speak from where I'm come from. I can't really give you a whole bunch of insight on things I don't know. I can't pretend to be something I'm not. Jazz doesn't allow for that kind of phoniness. As I've been collecting this 10-inch series, I got kind of frustrated, couldn't find a few titles. I had to settle for buying them out of Japan, and of course the Japanese always do a great job with everything, so I'm okay with that. This is the fiery Jonah Jones. A fiery trumpet player, plays in the swing tradition, Eldridge, Armstrong. He ends up on Capitol where he makes a lot of kind of more commercial, really polished, accessible music that was pop jazz, I guess you could say. But he's kind of got a lot of R&B to him, swing to him. But this is an early Bethlehem, and I've never seen a U.S. copy of this on Discogs or wherever. I'm sure it was issued, but I can't say for positive on that. At this point, I want to interject and show you guys something interesting. All of these 10 inches were done in 54, 55 to this point. The LP era is dawning, and the big labels have already switched over to the 12-inch LP format. And for the small labels, to just discard a warehouse of 10-inch product was unfathomable. You got 17,000 shellac or vinyl 10 inches ready to still use. You got a bunch of labels and jackets. You need to use that product up. And so they continue to make the 10-inch series even after they launched their 12-inch series. And one of the first things they did when they launched the BCP series in 55 was they started to package Oscar Pettiford and Red Mitchell, 2 10-inches together. Eddie Shoe, who we're listening to now, this is his 10-inch with Bob Hardaway's 10-inch on the B-side. This is the Pete Brown record I showed you in episode 1 with the Jonah Jones record I just showed you. And that's BCP 4. BCP 1 was another coupling of 2 10-inches that from all I've seen and heard, it may never have been issued. It was numbered, there's information on what was supposed to be on it, but none of the sites I've ever been to have ever seen a picture of it. You can't Google image it. It's pretty much not available. You can't find it. Ruby Braff Omnibus. This is culling of some of his 10-inch works. This is the bass BS BCP 6 record. And of course, it's got the Pettiford 10-inch and the Vinnie Burke 10-inch, which I showed you. And these are going to be out there, and you can find them. Now, they're not cheap or easy to come by. We brought our axes, BCP 7. This was the Aaron Sachs and the Hank D'Amico records coupled together. Tough record to come by. Very hard for me to find that one. So when you're out there buying this stuff, be careful, because if you don't want to be a completist, it's very easy to come home with a Bethlehem that you might already have in another format. Composition of Bobby Scott, again some of his 10-inch stuff kind of cold, and then the West Coasting record with Conte Candoli and Stan Levey. These are actually taken from the same sessions. They were issued as 2 different 10 inches, one by Conte Candoli, one by Stan Levey. Here they're actually put back together as the kind of complete sessions that were co-led anyway. So again, that's something to keep in mind when you're purchasing these old Bethlehem 10 inches, is you may already have the music on some of that early, some of those earlier BCP records. And by BCP 10, the Mill Tintin record, that's where they actually started to issue the same product on 10-inch and 12-inch for a little stretch. And that can get confusing. You can end up having the same music with a few tracks added to it. So, next is Terry Pollard. I dig Terry Pollard quite a lot. She was a pianist, a vibraphone player, and a darn fine player. This is a tough record to come by. You know, beat up copies can go for 40, 50 bucks. Don Fadgerquist is on this. Terry Pollard plays the piano. Howard Roberts on guitar. Frank DeVito on drums. Herman Wright on the bass. It's a great record. I really dig her. I can't remember where else I found her, but she's on some other record that's a pretty important session. 1015 Bethlehem series. Look for that stuff. It's great stuff. Now here we are at 1016, and this is when Bethlehem, under Gus WIldi, decides that he needs a West Coast presence. And they had some success with the Chris Connors stuff. She's already moved on to Atlantic. He sends Murray Singer, one of his A&R guys out west, hires a James Red Clyde. And within weeks, Bethlehem is issuing now stuff from the West Coast. And this West Coast stuff is some of my favorite Bethlehem stuff. And to answer the question, can white guys play jazz? This will be all you need to answer it. These records I'm about to show you that were recorded on the West Coast with Stan Levey, Max Bennett, Conte Candoli. Again, look at that album cover. How beautiful is that? Charlie MAriano, Frank Rosolino. There's a little group of guys on the West Coast that Bethlehem records quite a bit of stuff from. And you want to talk about some cooking. They're playing very much a fiery, modern jazz. That will stand up to almost anything on the East Coast. Stand up to the contemporary Pacific stuff going on at the same time. It's not light, throwaway jazz. This is some serious stuff. And what I like about these LA Stu Williamson, Conte Candoli on the trumpet here. Stu Williamson is another great trumpet player in this era. And Claude Williamson, Stu Williamson's brother, on piano. Those cats that I mentioned, they all kind of play in each other's records. And it's some darn good, hard bop-ish modern jazz. Blue Note will be proud of that tempo. That could be a Kenny Dorham session. Lee Morgan. Like, this is really fiery. So white guys absolutely can play jazz. Can they comment on the social issues of the time? Not in the same way. They can be more sympathetic than they can be empathetic. But they could also be dealing completely with their own psychologies and life story. And we all have our own tragedies. We all have our own addictions. We all have our own failings. And so music helps us all process that. Pop rock even does that, you know? So it's a very important dynamic of music, is the way it soothes and calms us. This Stan Levey record plays a composition of Cooper Holman and Joffrey. Again, now we're recorded in LA. This is number 1017 in the series. Zoot Sims is on this, Jimmy Joffrey, Claude Williamson, Max Bennett, and Stan Levey. So again, you're talking a high level of musicianship. And if I recall, these are the two that were issued next back to back. and then they were issued on that BCP number 6 or 7, whatever it was, together with the roller coaster. Early Herbie Mann. People often dismiss Herbie Mann as just push, and if you don't know push, it's worth a look up. Covers all you need to know. But great album cover. You got the little owl sitting on the flute there. Another fine player. I believe this one was recorded back in New York again with Creed Taylor. Benny Weeks is on the guitar. This was recorded in December of '54. And so now Bethlehem is kind of intermittently releasing some really good West Coast stuff with a more of a mix of East Coast stuff. On the East Coast, they were kind of a small fish. They were kind of a label that was getting what they could get to record. They didn't have the vaults of Verve. They didn't have the power and economics of even Alfred Lion with Jimmy Smith. So Bethlehem was doing what they could on the East Coast, but it was on the West Coast where they had a bit more of a chance to pick the barrel over. They really find some fantastic albums. B1019, Bethlehem 1019. So number 19 in the 12 and 10 series. You have Clark Terry, Joe Wilder, James Cleveland, David Schildkraut, Oscar Pettiford, Ozzie Johnson, of course, all playing with Oscar here. Basically Duke. A lot of these guys are Duke Ellington alumni, of course. That beautiful cover. You see that in the Blue Note stuff coming up with that same kind of one color tone printing. Just a beautiful record. Proud to own stuff like that, you know. And this one, of course, was back in New York again. And it's interesting how they're covering two coasts at this point. And they're doing so pretty well. So now we're at number 1020 in the Bethlehem series. And it's actually the only 10-inch I don't have. I have the 7-inch EP, which has, I believe, 4 songs on it. Lovely. And I have the Bethlehem 12-inch, which actually has the 10-inch sequence on it, Bethlehem 1020, because simultaneously this was issued on the 10-inch and the 12-inch. The 12-inch had a few more tracks on it. So this is contemporary with the 10-inch version. And when I find the 10-inch version of it, I'll probably do it just because I'm that guy. But for now, I have the 7-inch EP, the 12-inch full session. So I do need the 10-inch to complete it, but for the most part, we have our bases covered here. Milt Hinton is a fantastic bass player. You see Vinnie Burke, Milt Hinton, and Oscar Pettiford all have a number of releases as bass players, and a lot of bass players weren't getting titles under their own name at this point. Tony Scott plays clarinet. Dick Katz is on this, 1955. Again, it's a New York session. So you can kind of feel the difference, though, between the modern East Coast stuff that they're recording and the fast fury of what they were recording on the West Coast. And I can't tell people enough. Get all the West Coast recordings of Bethlehem in 54 and 55. It's fantastic stuff. Here's a great Charlie Shavers 10-inch. Again, a great trumpet player. Beautiful album cover. We're talking number 1021 now. I'll give you a little bit of his fire right here. Barry Armstrong. A ton of emoting, a ton of color, a ton of character is within those phrasings. Some sorrow, but you're definitely in the Armstrong, Eldridge genre of the trumpet player. And again, this was recorded on the East Coast. Now we're gonna launch ourselves back to the West Coast, and this is one of my favorite, probably my favorite Bethlehem record. This is Charlie MAriano, and he's got 3 records on Bethlehem, two 12 inches and this 10 inch, and that beautiful X-ray picture of the saxophone. Bert Goldblatt once again. When you're looking for Bethlehem to buy, look for these West Coast records. And you'll know, when you think about it, you'll know them by the names. Stan Levey, Max Bennett, the MAriano, the Claude Williamson and Stu Williamson, Conte Candoli. These are West Coast cats. On this record, Stu Williamson's playing the piano, Frank Rosolino is on the trombone, Charlie MAriano, Claude Williamson's on the piano, Stu Williamson on the trumpet, Max Bennett and Stan Levey. So that group. Listen to it. White cats can play. White cats can say something. So the answer is definitely that you don't have to be black to play this music, even though it is a black music. You can definitely emote and borrow from this great music and share your sorrow, share your story, which is a wonderful thing. Number 1023 is Carmen McRae. And I believe this is a New York one, and indeed it is. It's got Herbie Mann, Matt Matthews on the accordion, Lowell Mundell, the great guitar player, Mundell Lowe, sorry, and then Wendell Marshall and Kenny Clark. Actually recorded in '54, and Carmen McRae's a great bluesy jazz singer. She has a lot of feel and gut to her. Nice little album cover once again. Bert Goldblatt, of course. So, again, this is a great little series of records that are coming out. And then another one of those great West Coast records this is Stu Williamson, trumpet player, brother of Claude. This is his 10-inch as a leader here on Bethlehem. And again, his brother Claude's on the piano, Leroy Vinegar's on the bass, and Mel Lewis is on the drums. And so again, this is going to be one of those West Coast ones that really cooks. So enjoy those records that come out from the West Coast in Bethlehem, because it's good, high quality hard bop, and I love it, modern jazz. So we're going to do one more episode in chapter 3 on what the Bethlehem 10-inch series was. They eventually phase out the 10-inch by 55, 56, it's gone. But it was a great run. I'll see you soon. Subscribe to my channel. I'm the Jazz Shepherd. Peace.